Hi, this is Viktor Gamov from Confluent. It is not a secret that Kubernetes is becoming an essential part of the modern distributed system architectures. Especially if you're running things like a streaming platform or event-driven microservices, you have to know this stuff. So this is why I decided to create this three-part series where I'm going to be talking about the streaming at Kubernetes and why I think it doesn't have to be hard-way. So let's get to it. Kubernetes is a piece of software that's known as a container orchestration system. But what is a container? Container is the modern way how you package and deliver your application. Containers include base operating system layer, includes all dependencies of your system, so whatever is your system is required to run. So containers run on top of some sort of runtime. And if your application or your system contains of multiple containers, it would be very difficult to you manage this yourself. So this is why there is a requirement to have container orchestration system like Kubernetes. Jean-Luc Picard, famous captain of USS Enterprise D, would love to use Kubernetes. Just tell Kubernetes the state you want the world to be in, and Kubernetes will make it so. That is Kubernetes approach for configuration. You providing some sort of manifest that written in a language like YAML or in JSON if you're in this kind of jazz, and the Kubernetes makes it happen. It will read this manifest and will deploy all the resources that you mentioned in this manifest and will try to allocate resources available for it. That will be CPU, that will be memory, that will be disk. Maybe you need some network services available. So Kubernetes will be responsible for handling. Also, Kubernetes will be responsible for handling failures. If one of your pods or one of your workloads will fail, Kubernetes will be responsible to restart those on a different node that is healthy, so your application will continue to run. Now, you might say, oh, this Kubernetes thing is very similar to the things what your operating system might be doing. And this is exactly right. I consider Kubernetes as a modern distributed operating system that does things like your traditional operating system does for you. It schedules some of the resources for you. It provides network services. It provides a persistent storage if your application requires disk and persist some data. It also provides the means how different services, different pods, different containers, different what have you will communicate to each other through some discovery services and so far and so on. If you look at the Kubernetes with the eyes of the developers, you will see two things. First thing is the API server. Kubernetes provides the ways how you can call different resources by invoking some of the procedures. And another piece, which is kubectl, which is client that can invoke these APIs and get the results from Kubernetes server. kubectl is not just a client. It is command line utility that allows you to interact with Kubernetes from your terminal. There are many resources available in Kubernetes at your disposal, but the most basic and most minimal unit of deployment of workload, it is a pod. Pod is a collection of different containers. A pod can contain one container or multiple containers, and those containers are usually sharing some of the things. Specifically, they share some of the volumes that can be attached to this pod. They're sharing same namespace. They don't need to find the different discovery services to interact among each other. Containers that sit inside this pod, they're sharing few things. They're sharing file systems, so they don't need to go through the hoops to mounting different things to exchange information. They're sharing networks, so they can communicate to each other through localhost, and they're sharing namespace. So that's why they have more or less direct communication to each other. The very important thing to point out here is that by default, all these containers, all these pods that runs by Kubernetes, they're ephemeral, meaning that when they're gone, all information that's stored in the local file system will disappear. If you have a requirement that some of your application will persist some of the data on the file system, you need to attach the thing called persistent volume. As the name applies, you using these volumes to persist some data. In order to request this persistent volume, that would be essentially kind of folder on your file system, you need to create a resource called persistent volume claim. So this claim is kind of sort of small application that you're filling to the Kubernetes office, where Kubernetes can provide you with desired size disk. So this is pretty much it, what you need to know in terms of persistent volumes. Persistent volumes can be allocated dynamically or statically, with defining what type of persistent volume you need to have. Underlying system will provide you with desired type of hardware. For example, if you want to have a fast drives, you can request SSD drives, or if you require some of the cheaper options, you can require just spinning drives. Complex distributed systems like Zookeeper or Kafka require certain things to be done their way. For example, in order to different nodes in Zookeeper cluster discover each other, you need to have a stateful network identity, meaning that name of the host needs to be stays the same after restarts. To run these things in Kubernetes, we require to do certain modifications or require different type of resources. Stateful Set is a special type of resource that provides us two very important things that we're going to be using in our applications. First of all, it provides us with stateful network identity, meaning that each host will preserve host name after pod restarts. And the second thing is it provides you stateful disk identity, meaning that a file system or a disk that was attached with a particular pod will also persist and will be reattached to new pod after restart. As you learned today, in order to provision certain workloads, Kubernetes consumes a file that usually described in the YAML format. However, if you start dealing with the very complex deployments where you involve multiple different components and you need to provision multiple different resources, you need to come up with some high-level tools that allow you to generate these workload specifications, and also allows you to manage these releases, because these complex systems are becoming very difficult to manage. So there are different tools that Kubernetes community adopted over the years, and Helm, one of the popular tools to package this software and deploy the software. Here's a link to my previous video where I was talking about how to use Helm to deploy your stateful workloads in Kubernetes. So in order to build Confluent Cloud, we have to run Kafka and Confluent Platform as a cloud service. However, Kafka and Confluent Platform aren't really cloud native out of the box. So in order to make it so, we have to build a thing called Confluent Operator to achieve this task. And the Confluent Operator is going to be subject to our next video, so don't go anywhere. And as always, have a nice day.